Who is the Antichrist? Why does it matter? Why does it matter who the Antichrist is? You're going to know who the Antichrist is when he's revealed. Everybody's going to know who it is. It's not going to be a mystery. So, I don't really understand the preoccupation with knowing the identity of the Antichrist. I mean, do you think that by knowing who he is, you're going to be able to stop him from coming into power somehow? Because that's not true. Even if he were your roommate, you couldn't stop him from coming into power. If he were your roommate and you knew he was the Antichrist, you couldn't do anything about it. Prophecy is going to be fulfilled. The scriptures are going to be fulfilled. So everything that is written in the scriptures concerning the Antichrist and everything else about the end times is going to come to pass just as God says that it will. So knowing who the Antichrist is isn't going to have any effect whatsoever on what the Antichrist does. So I can see the value of knowing who the Antichrist is for the sake of knowing who the Antichrist isn't, because there's so much nonsensical teaching and speculation about who and what the Antichrist is. To prevent deception, I could see the value of knowing at least enough about who the Antichrist is to not be deceived about who he isn't. But beyond that, I don't really see the point. It's certainly not keeping me up at night. I know that the Antichrist is a servant of God. Yes, a servant of God. All things are his servants. God is the one who sets up kings and removes kings, just as he said to Daniel. And the Antichrist, just like Nebuchadnezzar during the time of Jeremiah, is the servant whom God has appointed to carry out his plan, just like the new world order, the one world government. All things are his servants. The demons, the angels, humans, the elements, all things are God's servants, and he uses them according to his will. The Antichrist is the servant of God. So, yeah, I really don't know. The Antichrist is going to be a Jew. The Jews are going to receive him as their Messiah, as they rejected Jesus Christ as their Messiah. And he's going to usher in a time of prosperity for the Jews in Israel, just as they are expecting their Messiah to do. Every man under his own fig tree, sort of a deal. I would imagine that he would probably fulfill a lot of the things that are written about Jesus Christ in the scriptures, as part of the deception about him being the Messiah of the Jewish people, such as perhaps descending from Judah, maybe being born in Bethlehem. I mean, the Jews still have the scriptures. They still have the Old Testament scriptures and the scriptures about the Messiah. So I suppose the more religious Jews might look into that, and perhaps they're still looking for the Messiah, even though I know a lot of the mainstream Jews have kind of given up on the idea and just sort of made it a symbolic thing. The Messiah is just kind of an idea, but not an actual person. But they'll change their tune when he shows up. So yeah, as far as the Antichrist is concerned, and the whole 666 thing, people have been speculating about that for ages. even if you never know what 666 means, you're still going to know who the Antichrist is, because he's going to be revealed. And even if you knew what 666 meant, there wouldn't be anything that you could do to prevent the Antichrist from coming into power. Nor should you, because that's just as much of God's plan for the end of the ages as everything else in the Revelation and in the prophets that speak about the end times. Why would you want to? You would be going against God is what you would be doing. You know, you can refer back to Jeremiah, like I mentioned earlier, about the time when God gave the world, as, you know, the known world or much of the world, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar. And Jeremiah was sent to the various nations to say, you know, put your head in the yoke of put your neck in the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar and serve him, and you'll be allowed to stay on your land. Because God said he had given the world into Nebuchadnezzar's hand. God raised up Nebuchadnezzar. He was not a good man, but he was still God's servant for that time. And that will be the same case with the Antichrist. So if you're fighting against the Antichrist other than by doing what God commands, as far as not taking his mark or worshiping his image, then you're actually fighting against God. You know, if you're building bunkers and storing up guns and all this other nonsense to try to fight against the one world government, it's God's government. It's not a good government, but it is still God's government. It has a purpose. So, no breaking the law, etc. I mentioned that already in another video. But, yeah, so who is the Antichrist? Again, ask yourself, in light of all these things that I've just mentioned, why does it even matter? Why does it matter? There are more important things to be concerned about, like getting ready to go home to be with the Lord, making sure that you're doing your best right now as a Christian, that you're washing your robes if you need to do so. That's more important than knowing who the Antichrist is. We'll all find out who he is sooner than later, and things will go exactly as the Bible says they will.